Day 2. Today we're watching The Final Girls, and we're going to talk about how amazing it is. I'm definitely working on getting the format of this show more concrete and a bit more concise so that we can kind of move quicker and I don't have any more 23-minute videos for a single movie. So, before anything else, let's get the plot out of the way. So we open on the trailer for Camp Bloodbath. It is the horniest 80s slasher movie that you could possibly imagine. I'm going to put some footage from the trailer right here.
To Camp Bluefinch, where romance and the sun can turn deadly.
Best summer ever!
They won't be singing Kumbaya. They'll be screaming Kumbano. Pack your bags for Camp Bloodbath.
We just messed with the wrong virgin.
Where the only marshmallow that will roast is your sanity.
And then we cut to our main character, Max, who is watching the trailer on her phone while she waits for her mom. When her mom gets in the car, you find that her mom is one of the stars of Camp Bloodbath. Then we get an incredible scene between Max and her mom, who is played by Malin Ackerman, where they masterfully establish their relationship. Mom is a flighty actress, and Max is a heavily parentified teenager. She can't be more than 15 or 16 at this point. It's a really real feeling dynamic that is definitely a little bit sad and has a lot of weight to it, but they sing and dance in the car together, and you really get a good picture of their bond until they crash and Mom dies. So, then 3 years later, to the day, Max is in high school and she's living with her aunt. Max's best friend Gertie has a stepbrother who is obsessed with Camp Bloodbath, and he begs Max to come to his double feature screening of both Camp Bloodbath and Camp Bloodbath 2. She reluctantly attends, but during the movie a fire starts and Max and her friends cut a hole in the screen to escape to safety. But safety is actually inside the movie. Once they are inside the movie, their whole job is to survive the movie from this point on, and everything goes hilariously wrong. All of the characters, both the ones that are from the real world and the movie universe, are all incredible. They're all very, very funny. They all are acted fantastically. All of these actors did a great job, and I'm not going to talk about almost any of them for the rest of this review. For that, I highly recommend that you watch the movie yourself because it is totally worth it. However, we're going to focus on Max because she is the heart of this movie, and her arc is the one that makes this a cut above a movie like Cabin in the Woods that we talked about yesterday. So Max is the main character, and her struggle to overcome her mother's death is the driving force behind the plot of this movie. In the beginning, Max just wants to hide and skip the screening, but she gathers up her courage and goes. But her courage falters when she sees her mom in an uncomfortable situation on screen. But then the fire forces her to confront her feelings head on when she comes face to face with the character that her mom played 30 years prior.
Oh, hi. What's your name? Max.
Of course, Malin Ackerman, she doesn't age, so she looks exactly the same in the past and the present. Whatever, don't worry about it. Max's first instinct is to try to find a way to get her mother's character to survive and then come back to the real world with her. But she learns that there's not a replacement for her real mother. And in the end, Nancy steps up and gives her the mothering that she needs. She gives her the strength to let her go. See, Nancy, that's the character played by the mom, understands that Max has to be the final girl, so she must die.
You'll always know where to find me, okay? But you have to let me go. You have to let me go.
So in a move that reminds us of Max's real mom, Nancy dances in a field to attract the slasher, whose name is Billy. And she makes eye contact with Max the whole time. In the end, it gives her the closure she needs and the courage to take up the machete and chop off Billy's head. It's awesome. It rules. The movie ends, the Camp Bloodbath movie, and all the kids wake up in the hospital, and their injuries remain, but they are all still alive. Then they look out of their room and they find that they're not back home in the real world, but they are in Camp Bloodbath 2. It does feel like a setup for a sequel, but I don't think they're ever going to make a sequel. It would be awesome, probably, but it doesn't need it. Like, the joke lands and the idea works. So, that's the plot of the movie. So let's get to some paper wrestling. No, let's actually get to our scoring, because this one is a lot of fun to score. Let's look at the main idea first, because it's very tied in with the plot. Where Cabin in the Woods fails to make a point, the final girl succeeds in flying colors. They take a similar approach to the meta-narrative deconstructing of tropes, and they even focus just as heavily on the Madonna horror dichotomy, but they also present an essential metaphor to provide the audience with a concrete theme, which is grief. This theme almost matches one of my other favorite movies, The Babadook, 1-to-1. The main difference is that the lesson in The Babadook is slightly stronger because the protagonist learns to live with her grief for the rest of her life, rather than just kind of coming to grips with it. So, for this reason, The Final Girls earns a 9 out of 10. Let's talk about fun. This has all the fun and competent humor writing of The Cabin in the Woods, but the problematic stuff all comes from the Camp Bloodbath characters, and the kids from 2015 actively push back on it, specifically Chris. They do a great job of actually critiquing the attitudes that you find in these slasher horror movies, rather than just saying, and that's a thing. So, for guilt-free fun, The Final Girls earns a 10 out of 10. Let's talk about techniques, because this movie looks awesome. One thing that will jump out immediately at the viewer is the difference between 2015 and 1986. 2015 looks normal, but then Camp Bloodbath is a classic horror film, so everything is dressed like a set. It doesn't feel like a real place, and the saturation and brightness on screen is just cranked up to the max. The stylistic touches are strongest when it adds to the atmosphere, which is achieved by the beautiful and unsettling skies throughout the movie. One last effect that I want to point out is the flashback inside the movie. It takes a second for what's happening to set in, but the transition effect and the 3D subtitle really hit me in that spot where style and meta-narrative collide. Is really, really strong. As far as like the miscellaneous other things, the set and costume designs are great and they're very funny through the whole movie. For instance, when the lustiest camp counselor is locked into a life vest and oven mitts so she can't strip until the opportune moment, is excellent. 9 out of 10 on technique. So, finally, we will look at the scares in this movie. In this movie, the fun and the humor casts such a long shadow that it kind of overtakes the scary bits, but they're definitely there. Billy's mask alone is a frightening artifact, and he successfully terrorizes the kids. For instance, when they first get into the movie, Duncan convinces us that Billy can't hurt him because it's not in the script. So, as a viewer, I totally don't believe him, and the tension builds and builds and builds as Duncan lingers way, way too close to Billy. And, well, I was right not to trust him, because then Billy hacks him right through the stomach, and it's really gross and violent. And that actually is a very tense, scary moment. But most of the other kills strike a very different tone, whether it's the hilarious death of Tina, who does get to do her striptease and try to lure Billy into a trap, but instead of catching him in the trap, she trips and falls face first into a bear trap. It's graphic, but very funny. So there's also a very ironic death where the jock and the virgin are driving away because they don't want any part of the whole scenario, and Duncan runs out of the forest because apparently he didn't die when he got hacked by the machete, and he gets run over by them and dies again, and then they hit a pole and explode. Again, it's funny, but now not only did the guy who knew everything died once, he's now died twice. There's also the final death, which is Nancy, the character played by Max's mom. This one's not funny. This one's also not scary. This one is emotional. It's where she has chosen to sacrifice herself and play the role of mother for Max. And she's dancing out in this field, and they're both crying, and she knows that she's a character and she's going to die, and Max knows that she's not her real mom, but she gets the closure she needs. It's very sweet, and it brings the movie home, and it sets our characters in a new world where specifically Max can move forward. So, narratively, these kills in the slasher movie are great. Are they scary? I don't think so. But this film is such high quality that it's really okay if it loses some points in the scares department, because even though it gets a 6 out of 10 for scares, the overall score is 34 out of 40. And I see this being high on the list for quite a while in the rest of this month. So, come back tomorrow. We are watching Scare Me. It is a Shudder original, so if you don't have that streaming service and you want to watch the movie before my review, you can get a free 7-day trial to Shudder. It's Shudder. I am not sponsored for this, but I really like the movie that we're going to talk about tomorrow, and it is brand new. So you can hop on over there and be ready for tomorrow's video. And then the next day we're going to watch a really, really bad one, so be prepared for that too. All right, thanks, bye!